Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth installment of Co-Parenting Simplified, the Fayr Way. I'm Michael Daniels. I am the founder and CEO of the Fayr app. It is a co-parenting app to help co-parents communicate constructively without necessarily having to communicate verbally, just to improve communication amongst those lines. I'm joined today by Susan Guthrie. Susan Guthrie is the founder of the Divorce and Beyond podcast, and of course, Gabrielle Hartley, who is the founder of the Better Apart Method. Our special guest today, which we're very excited to speak with here, is Peter Shankman of New York. He's the father of one daughter. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's the founder of HARO, H-A-R-O. It stands for Help a Reporter Out. He's a graduate of Boston.
Love HARO.
Shout out to HARO. Yeah, he's a graduate of Boston University, has a degree in journalism. He's authored 5 books. Get this: Faster Than Normal, Zombie Loyalists, Nice Companies Finish First, Customer Service, and Can We Do That? He sits on the board of many different companies. One notably Daily Worth, Scottivest, namely, and he was a former board member at the NASA Education and Outreach Council. So, Peter, thank you and welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Peter, I got to tell you, I've watched his he did a TED talk. And he speaks really, he's really somebody who understands ADHD, not just from his own personal experience in life, but he's extraordinarily informed on the subject. And he really specializes in helping fathers who are raising children who may have ADHD, well, as in the fathers themselves have ADHD, and how to really navigate that. And so, Peter, why don't you go ahead and what I love about Peter is the guy is never at a loss for words. Like he can go, and it's really great stuff. That's why he's oftentimes a public speaker at big forums.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been an interesting 9 weeks. My last trip, I think, was March 5th. Everything sort of shut down after that. I was a keynote in Vegas at a 600-person conference, came home 4 days later, everything was shut down. And when you take someone who has ADHD and take them from 1,000 miles an hour to zero in like less than a week, it is, my hair is not normally this color, to give you some idea. It's normally, it's a regular brown, and now it's been white, it's been purple. It'll probably be red. It's interesting. Thank God for my Peloton bike. And my Peloton treadmill. But it's been a tough 9 weeks, and I'm homeschooling. I'm doing a lot of the homeschooling. I'm doing it in partnership with my ex-wife. We're very good friends. But it's I've found out that every single teacher my daughter's ever had has lied to me, because my daughter is not a pleasure to have in class, and so it has been it's been interesting. But I'm very fortunate that I have the means to sort of take the time and be with her. I love her to death. She's a great kid, and like I said, I have ways. I've switched a lot of my speeches to keynotes to virtuals. I've been doing other things. There are many ways, but I think the one misconception about this whole thing is that you're so lucky you spend all your time at home. Well, first of all, my happy place is on a plane and on stage, so it's not lucky. But second thing is, I'm not on vacation. Right. I love it drives me crazy. People saying, "Oh, when we go back to work, bitch, we've been working." Right. This is not back to work. This is, when we go back to an office that we didn't need to be in the first place. This is not back to work. We're all still very much working here. And we're working with the added responsibility of having the shit scared out of us every 15 minutes because of a breaking news alert. Right. So for people who say, you get to chill out, this is exhausting. Right. And I think that parents and just everyone needs to understand that and cut themselves some slack. It's okay to be exhausted. This is brand new territory and scary as hell and exhausting.
Yeah, I can relate. Like, it is a scary time, especially when so many people are people are trying to work, but at the same time, it's so unsure. Like my sister's staying with me right now, and I got to tell you, she's trying to work, do her job. She works for a production company out of LA. And the thing is, though, all your projects, like your income has been slashed. So you have that added stress of the finances that's going on. And so I guess, does this affect, like, I guess diving into people uniquely with the problem of ADHD? Well, first, like, how would you define it? And then, you know, what are some of your coping mechanisms, and how have you made it a superpower, so to speak? I really liked how you spoke on that, how it's a superpower.
Yeah, I mean, so ADHD for me, I've growing up, it didn't exist, right? In the 70s and 80s in the public school system in New York City, it wasn't ADHD, it was sit down, you're disrupting the class disease. Mm-hmm. And the irony is that I was disrupting the class by making jokes. Why was I making jokes? Because every time the class laughed at something I did, that gave me dopamine. What does dopamine allows me to do? It allows me to focus. So I was actually, the beautiful irony is I was interrupting the class so I could learn.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course,
self-medicating.
Yeah, with jokes.
And while some people self-medicate with drugs or with alcohol, whatever, I was self-medicating with, you know, at that point, comedy and getting in trouble and things. Not for anything bad, but for being a wise ass. And skated through school by the skin of my teeth, you know, from all the way up through college, with Boston University by the skin of my teeth. The irony being that I'm on the Dean's Advisory Board now, right? So it's like, you know, I'm back. But it was this crazy time. And when I finally, after I sold my company in 2010, my third company, I sat down and I'm like, okay, normal people don't start and sell 3 companies in under 18 years. What is it that allows me to do this that also can get me really in deep trouble on occasion? And that's when I got diagnosed. And that's when I realized that everything I've done all my life was self-medication and was I didn't take a step further, self-preservation, right? And I've put rules into place that I didn't realize I was putting in that I exist on. I have to get up early and exercise every morning. Being a single dad with a kid who gets up naturally early like I do, that sometimes means I'm up as early as 3 o'clock in the morning.
Nope, just lost him.
We lost him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was there.
He'll jump back in. He's fallen.
Well, I think actually what he was saying was really interesting because so many people. Oh, hi,
That's
Peter.
Twice. I'm sorry, guys. And the funny thing is I can hear you the entire time I lose. But yeah, I mean, so I'm on my bike or on my treadmill or whatever super, super early because that gives me the dopamine I need to keep my brain going. If I don't have that, then I lose everything. So for me, it's very important to make sure that that's there. So you put these rules in place. It's like I have a faster brain than a normal person, right? And so to do that, I have to keep things like my dopamine at full capacity. It's not a coincidence that I'm a licensed skydiver with over 500. It's not a coincidence that I was a fat ass all my life growing up who only ran like by pressing X on a game controller. And then I discovered, I did my first 5K. I'm like, wow, this feels great. And no, I didn't do another 5K. I signed up for a goddamn Ironman, right? So it's like,
right.
I joke that I only have.
If you're ADHD, you have to go professional or it's boring.
But no, when you're ADHD, you only have 2 speeds. When you're ADHD and an entrepreneur, you only have 2 speeds. You have namaste and I'll cut a bitch. And there's no middle ground there.
I'm actually raising you right now in my house. Like I said before we got it, I have 3 boys.
I'm raising you.
The middle one is you. Like I'm watching you and I want to like calm my kid down here because he's right now 13 and like buying and selling all kinds of things and like, you know, driving us crazy and making us incredibly proud. And like to look at you, I'm just thinking like, you know, the ADHD therapist says, you know, you got a race car mind on a.
Oh, are you taking him to see Hallowell?
No, Sharon Salim.
That's a Hallowell quote. Race car mind with bicycle brake.
Yeah.
But no, it's that's totally true.
It's totally true. And it's like, and he took like when you're talking, I mean, I'm laughing. Like I'm like actually like I'm not gonna go and get him, but like I want you to meet because it's like funny. I'm like, look, you're gonna be great. You're already great.
But
right?
that's the benefit.
But
that's the benefit of
the hard part, I'm sorry, like with divorces is like the non-ADHD parent sometimes is very intolerant of the ex-ADHD spouse who's like an amazing person typically, you know, when they've got it together and they're good parenting, blah, 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 blah. But then the ADHD kid drives that other spouse crazy also. And so then we have the spouse who doesn't have ADHD, doesn't believe in ADHD and starts fighting incessantly. And so like, what do we do there? Like, how do we not make the kid feel like they're bad? And how do we smooth everything out? Because people have a real need for labels.
So I don't know if my daughter has it, but I see things in her that could just very well be her being 7 years old. And that's fine. I'm not getting her tested anytime soon or whatever. But I just do things, you know, I'm not going to comment on my ex's style of parenting. She's a great mom. And that's it, you know. But what I do know is that when I see my daughter, you know, starting to find something shiny to look at, you know, I'll say, honey, come over here. Let's drop and do 10 squats. Right. or let's do 20 jumping jacks together or something like that. That quick burst of dopamine, that 20-second burst of dopamine is enough to keep it going for the next 45 minutes. And then we'll do it again, right? It's again, these are all things I wish I'd learned as a kid, but I use religiously now in school, at work. And I'm starting to get her to use them in school. I have two sides to my closet. They're literally labeled. One side says office/travel, t-shirt and jeans. The other side says speaking/TV, and it's a button-down shirt, jacket, and jeans. That's it, right? My sweaters, my vests, my suits. Those are all in my daughter's closet. Because if I don't wake up every morning, what should I wear? Let's see. Oh, I remember that sweater. Lara gave me that sweater. I wonder how she's doing. It's 3 hours later. I'm naked in the living room on Facebook, and I haven't left the house. So you put these rules into place, and they work.
You mean you get distracted by the sweater?
That's the thing. I get distracted by something. I have what's called ADOS, which is attention deficit. Oh, shiny. So if there's something,
I'm writing that one down.
I am too. That's really good.
Deficit.
So you try to eliminate everything possible.
Oh my God, this is amazing. You just keep talking. This is ooh, shiny. Ooh, shiny.
Well, I actually have a question because I mentioned earlier, one of my close friends reached out to me just yesterday asking for help, for resources. And her situation is her husband has ADHD, and the enforced confinement of COVID and quarantine is making his situation worse, and it's causing a lot of stress on their relationship. And she's looking for help for that. She said, do you know any therapists? Do you know resources? So, what would you suggest? Because I'm sure they're not the only people out there.
So it's funny. I actually do coaching on this. I'm not a huge not one of those people that makes his living in coaching. Don't. But I had enough people ask me for help that I started something. Am I allowed to share the link? I don't want to.
Oh, sure. Of course. We'd love it, and if I can give it to my friends, I would really appreciate it.
It's so simple. It's shankminds.com, shankminds.com/ADHD coaching. Yeah. And the premise behind it, right now I'm talking to a lot of people. I have like maybe 8 clients at any given time, and a lot of the calls are, how do I stay focused in an environment that's not the environment I usually stay focused in, right? A lot of people, they would go to work, and for me, I have a beautiful apartment, but I kept a Regis office, because at a Regis office, it's an inner office. I have a door that's closed, and it doesn't, no one can bother me. I have no windows. It doesn't distract me. Here, I'm looking out over the 56th floor. It's, oh, what a beautiful day. And so all these people do that. So how do you put things into place that allow you to keep focused? I'm working on a lot of that and doing a lot of that for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to cough. Well, I think the coaching, so the aspect of what people can do to get help, because I think everybody thinks they have to go to a doctor if they have ADHD, right? Like you're going to get medicated, and that's going to be how it's dealt with. And as a divorce professional, I know there are other options because it becomes an issue for families. But what are your thoughts? I'd love to know your thoughts on that side.
I am not anti-med. I'll start off with that. I'm not anti-med. However, I do not believe it should be our first line of defense. Okay. Yeah. We're medicating kids. We're putting kids as young as 5 years old on amphetamines because, they're acting like they're, well, pardon my French, fucking 5, right? And, they're acting like they're 5 years old. Oh, well, they must have ADHD. Let's throw them on amphetamines. And I'm not saying there's not a place for medication. There is. But what we're seeing a lot is, for instance, I have a prescription, right? I have a prescription for Concerta. And I use it on occasion, right? I use it when my assistant calls me and says, hey, if you don't get me these expense reports by the end of the day, you're not getting paid. All right, fine. Pop, done, right? But what I've done more than that is I've found out ways to get the same dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline levels that a pill would give me through natural ways. Exercise, walking up and down, standing meetings, public speaking, whatever. Because at the end of the day, pills don't teach skills, right? Well, and so you put a kid who's 7 years old on Ritalin or Concerta or Adderall. Now they're 25. That's all they've known all their life. They're off their parents' insurance. Well, now they don't have it. Well, all of a sudden, all their focus and creativity is gone because they haven't learned anything to do.
What I've learned and read a lot about is that like for some cases, therapy alone and exercise alone cannot solve everybody's problems. And pills do not teach anything. They just control.
It just can't be right. It can't be siloed.
Magic,
You have
right?
if
So
you're
it
gonna
has to be both. You need to have
exactly
while the person is medicated during those hours where their brain is available, they need
to be learning what to do.
Exactly. They need to like get their skills, because it's not like they're going to have amnesia when they're off the medication. It might be a little bit harder to access the skills when they're triggered later on. You know, if you have a 9 or 10-year-old who's just on like, you know, a low dose of something during the day, and then by the time they come home, they're a little bit off the walls, they'll still remember from the interventions that they had at school or after or whatever. So that's really, I think, the best way to address it for many cases.
And some of the points also is that, you know, if I take Concerta, I have to make damn well sure that I take it before 5 a.m. Because if I don't, I'm not sleeping that night. Right. And so you learn these rules and you learn what works and what doesn't.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
And it has to be different for every person as well. Like, I think that's and it's actually one of the arguments I have heard when parents have had conflicting approaches to how to treat this, is they feel like taking a child in, getting that child medicated for ADD, HD is sort of a Band-Aid approach and a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't take into consideration there are other ways and other modalities of dealing with this that maybe need to be explored and worked on together.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always better, I think, if we can avoid the medication. And again, like I said in the beginning, I'm in a household filled with people with ADHD, so I know I'm not like a psychologist or anything like that, but I have, again, read a lot about it. And it seems like, you know, where you have a child or a dad or a person who is like emotionally dysregulated, it's a little bit more helpful with the medication. And Peter, jump in if you disagree. But if you have someone who has like, you know, a hard time with like planning, like executive functioning, the pill doesn't necessarily help you have the executive function, but it may help you from interrupting your thinking. Like, so you're not going to like you have the list that says, okay, when I wake up, I brush my teeth, I get dressed. And, but you might, the pill is not going to help you make the list of what you have to do. It's going to prevent you from going down the rabbit hole of, oh, this is such a pretty sweater that my Aunt Lucy gave me. Right.
Different things work for different people.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you're a parent right now, listening to this, and you're saying, I've been experiencing this, I think we come from a generation that this wasn't as diagnosed. If you're over 40, you probably grew up and you passed the time that your parents would have taken you to a psychiatrist and figured this out. So if you're somebody like that and so you're not diagnosed, and yet you're finding yourself having difficulty managing your children through their schoolwork at this time, managing your own work that you have to get done, there's a lot to do in a day. And what would you recommend to these folks just to try to maybe self-diagnose and deal with those problems?
Well, the first thing, again, is, you know, have some compassion for yourself, because this is, and I hate the term unprecedented, so I'm not going to use it. This is a new time for all of us, right? It's way overused. I'm sorry, I'm done with that word. And I'm also done with companies saying, we understand. No, you fucking don't. You're not here. You're in my shower, you know? So it's like, I think the first thing we need to have some compassion for yourself, right? There's crazy times out there, and it's okay to screw stuff up every once in a while. You know, that being said, try to instill some rituals. I mean, I talk about the 4 rules that I get through my life with: getting up super early to exercise, eliminating choice, right? So only one outfit or whatever. I sleep in my gym clothes, right? Because if I'm in my gym clothes, when the alarm goes up and my shades are automatic and my lights are automatic, they're all internet controlled. And so if everything is all set and the lights are on, it looks like sunlight at 3:30 in the morning, I'm in my gym clothes, I'm going to wake up, right? So I'm getting rid of anything that could potentially stop me from doing that. And then finally, you know, getting a good night's sleep is imperative. You know, you don't have to be Superman here, right? It's okay to skip some things, skip that final call or miss that show that you want to. Get a good night's sleep and get up early and get that exercise for that dopamine, and then see how that works for you. And also see what happens, you know, assuming you can't get to a doctor to get diagnosed right around now, which makes sense. You know, see what you can do just by eating. What does eating do for you? I know that when I eat like shit, I feel like shit, right? It's when I eat healthy, I feel better. And when I eat healthy, I have more brain power. And, you know, I'm not saying we all have to become vegans. God perish the thought, but you know, it's like I'm one of those people. Again, I don't have leftover pizza. Leftover pizza that's not a thing. I've never had leftover pizza in my life. If there's a pizza in front of me, I'm eating the pizza. Right? It's just not a thing.
Like, you don't like leftover pizza?
There is no leftover pizza. I've never had.
I get it now.
You know, it's. I have. There's a comedian. I don't remember who. I so agree with this. He goes, "I don't stop eating when I'm full. I stop eating when I hate myself." Right. So I'm sort of the same way. I don't finish. You know. So you don't put yourself in those positions. When my daughter wants pizza every once in a while, we go to the pizza place. We buy 2 slices. We take them home. She has the 2 slices. That way, there aren't 6 slices that I know I'm going to eat at 1 a.m. Right. So it's about making those. It's called playing the tape into the future. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I eat these 6 slices. How is that going to affect me in the morning? And am I going to be able to get up and work out, or is my stomach going to be killing me? Okay, and if I'm not working out, how am I going to be in the middle of the day? If I'm in the middle of the day, how am I? And onward and onward and onward. Playing that tape forward helps me tremendously get out of those sort of situations that I could be in.
So is there a certain food, or I know I've heard, you can probably comment on this, is that looking at your phone at night, removing the phone, it helps you sleep better because the blue light somehow triggers your brain.
Yep.
Did you know the chemicals? Are you familiar with that whole?
I know that it does. That blue light does trigger your brain, and I know that you can put your phone on night mode, which supposedly help. But you know what's even a better thing than doing that? Not looking at your phone. So leaving it in another room or across the hall or something like that, right? Keeping it on silent. Shut off those alerts. Every time, there's a reason that we text and drive, even though we know it can kill us. It's because every time we get an alert, our brain squirts out a little bit of dopamine, right? It is literally an addiction. Our phones are literally addictive. And so shutting off all the alerts, I have never had an alert on my phone for years, right? It is silent. I look at the only people who can alert me are my ex and my parents. The only people who have access to, my daughter. And so for me, it's really about making sure that I don't let those things get in my head. So I shut off the phone. I get into bed early. I mean, she's out by 8 o'clock. Her bedtime's 8 o'clock. She's usually out by 8:30. I'm asleep at 8:45. I get into bed and I just go to bed. And, everyone's like, well, what are you, a farmer? I'm like, hey, it works for me. and the joke is, I can't do that. I have to go out. I have to see those, go to the, how much business I've lost by going to sleep early? I haven't. You know what much business I've gained by being at the gym at 5:38 a.m. and seeing the action? When you go out at night and go to the bars and meet people or go to networking events, the people there, all they can do is introduce you to people who might be able to make something happen. Gym at 5:30, that's where the people who actually make something happen hang out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Skip that middleman.
That is true. That is
That's really, I love that.
That's a good nugget right there.
Good messages, Peter. I love it.
Looks like
Skip
we have
the middleman. Go to the gym.
Yeah.
One question that I've had come up in cases, and I wonder what you think about this, is I had one client whose husband had ADHD and their son had it, and she felt like they had a special bond over that. Like it was something that actually brought them together, and she was shut out of that because she couldn't understand it. I actually think you've done a phenomenal job of describing it. I wish somebody had been around saying what you're saying about what it's like to have it. When I was talking to her, I would have shared some of that. The bicycle and the race car brain. I think that would have been helpful for her to know. But what do you think about that?
The thing is, you got to understand there are also downsides to it as well, right? And the reason you share it with someone, and I have what I call ADHD DAR, right? I can tell in 2 seconds talking to you if you have it. And the reason is because we understand things that relate to us. We understand the good sides and the bad sides. I remember one of the things that drove my ex crazy, and with valid reason, was that I would come home, and if I had had a great day, that was all that mattered. I'd come home, oh my God, you're not gonna believe this. I did this. And it didn't matter if she had a great day or a shitty day. It didn't matter if she was in the middle of changing the baby or had just out of the bathroom or something was up with her mother. It didn't matter. I had, and I learned from that, you have to slow down. And so I started to learn when I'd come home to stand outside my apartment door and breathe and take like 2 to 3 minutes to breathe. The thing about people with ADHD is that they are incredibly wrapped up in their own brain, which is a good thing. That's where all the cool businesses come from, right? I've had Seth Godin on the podcast. I've had Dave Nealman, who founded JetBlue. I've had the band Shinedown. I've had Tony Robbins, right? All these people who have done amazing things because of their ADHD. But ADHD doesn't inherently lend itself well to relationships unless the other person's ADHD. Then it lends itself too well because then you're both going to be screwed and you'll wind up in Vegas having blown the kids' college fund. But the thing about ADHD, it doesn't lend itself well to relationships when one person has it and the other person doesn't. because I cannot tell you how many times my ex thought like she I would tell her something and I was so proud of it, and she looked at me like I just told her I was a squirrel or a three-headed owl or something like that. And on the flip side, people with ADHD crave acknowledgement, right? So when we have an argument, if I felt like she wasn't hearing me, I'd speak louder. But all that would force her to do is be to shut down, right? So I was inherently blowing it by talking louder. And so I wrote a great piece on just search on my name and the words 10 things when you love someone with ADHD. It's basically 10 ways to it's on Medium, 10 ways to be happier when you live or love someone with ADHD. And, one of the things is that even if our idea is the stupidest thing you've ever heard, we're not looking for notes. We're not looking for you to tell us why it's stupid. We just want to know you heard it. Mm-hmm. Just tell us that you heard it. Or, if we come in and I remember my ex told me once about a shirt that was, I don't know, some shirt that was in something. And I happened to be in a store one day, like 4 months later, and I found it and I bought it. And I came home and she came in, I was wearing it, and she's like, "Oh my God, you bought it." She goes, "I got to tell you though, it's starting to go out of style now." I'm like, "That's not why I wore it." And in her mind, she wasn't saying anything to be mean. She's a very kind person. She wasn't doing it to be mean. She was doing it because she thought I'd want to know that. But in my head, I was all like, "Look what I got. I did the thing you told me to do." I was all excited and happy about it. And it just crushed me. Right? And again, not her fault in the slightest. Good person. But it was just a failure to communicate. And it's that you have to understand that when you have an ADHD brain, it just doesn't, things that are perfect, make sense to you are foreign to us, and vice versa.
Is there a common correlation between ADHD and autism?
I am not a doctor, so I am not going to answer that. I do know that what I can tell you is that neurodiversity, mm-hmm. which is ADHD, autism, spectrum, executive function disorder, anything like that, they are all closely related. Okay. I couldn't tell you how or what chemicals, mm-hmm. but they are closely related.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No, that's really, really fascinating. One thing that you touched on, I don't think it's ADHD related, but as in one of your talks that you did, you talked about raising of children, and honestly, it really stuck with me a lot. And that had to do with, you said, when two children are young, a little boy and a little girl, it's totally acceptable to give them both the same amount of love and affection and this sort of thing. But as they get older, our society kind of dictates that, it's not masculine to continue doing that to a boy, whereas girls can go on continuing to get affection and love. And that changes. That starts to hurt boys. Boys end up internalizing things more and feeling more pain as they get older. And I'm sure that's going to be exacerbated with somebody probably with ADHD. Can you speak to that a little bit? Maybe articulate it better than I just did.
I mean, you pretty much nailed it, right? I think that one of the things about ADHD is I used to be the best way to say it. I never really, look, and a lot of it's probably growing up in New York City and going to high school of performing arts, right? I was surrounded by all different types of people since the day I was born, and never really thought anything twice about it. I'm just me. And the one recommendation I make to kids, and it's hard to understand this because when you're a kid, your only job is to be popular. It's literally your only fucking job is to be popular, right? And as you get older and you start to get in your later teen years, you start to realize how that's not that important. But as a kid, middle school was like the worst time for me in the world. Then when I turned 14, I had a brain tumor and I was in the hospital for 3 months and was on 175 milligrams of prednisone for 2 straight years and gained 8,000 pounds in my head and just wanted to die every single day. So I get that, mm-hmm. but it took way too long to learn this. I eventually learned to stop renting space in my head to people that didn't matter, and to stop renting space in my head to things that didn't matter, right? It's nice to be liked, but quite frankly, unless you're my daughter or my parents or somehow involved in helping me pay my mortgage, I really don't give a shit about it. It's nice if you do, right? And I'm happy to be your friend, but 15 years of having a public persona, 25 years of having a public persona online, having started and sold a company, being on CNN all the time, I've learned not to read the comments, man.
Oh, yeah.
No,
life
never
is just
read
too short.
Do not read
Life
the
is
comments.
just too short. And if someone's going to give me shit for it, that's their problem, not mine. I've learned that people, if someone tries to tear you down, there's something wrong with them, not you. Good people don't take pleasure in hurting other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I just learned all these things that I wish I'd learned earlier, but then again, I wish I didn't, because if I'd learned them earlier, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So,
you would have helped so many people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny though, those things that you say you didn't know. I mean, as a lifelong divorce attorney, a lot of people don't know a lot of those things, like, you know, to trust your instincts and to follow your mind and not to worry about what other people think and say. And I mean, so many hard learned lessons are so universal. But when we're experiencing them, we all, or I think it's like the human condition. We feel like we are having this solitary, unique experience, but we're actually like not that different from one another. I think there's like probably like, I don't know, 10 avatars of the human experience or something. I don't mean to like oversimplify, but yeah. So I think that, you know, that's great that you have taken all of the things that you learned through your hard experiences and made them into something that I'm sure you've helped, like, you know, thousands and thousands of people, if not millions of people, through the years. And I'm grateful to get to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know which avatar you fit into. I'll have to like.
I don't either. But you know what? I don't really care.
Right.
You know, I mean,
and the heck with me and my avatars. Like that's my. That's my
no. It's not about that. You're totally right. But I remember someone said to me, now that you have a kid, you're going to stop skydiving. I said, well, that's kind of the thing that makes me a better dad.
Right.
Why would I stop doing that? Oh, I don't know. Well, okay, then it's a good thing we're not married, right, dude? You know, it's like,
right.
Life's too short.
So exercise is pivotal. So I think give some tips to some of our the listeners out there. Like I can envision myself just waking up and committing to myself, okay, every morning I'm just going to roll out of bed and do 20 push-ups or something, or 30, whatever.
And you won't do it every morning because it's hard. It's freaking hard, right? I do it. I make a commitment to myself that 4 times a week I'm going to do it, and I try to stick with that. And I'm not perfect, but I've put things into place that help me do it. I have a virtual trainer now that we're in. You know, he used to be my trainer at the gym. Now he's virtual, and 3 times a week with him. He's calling me on FaceTime at 5:30 in the morning. And if I don't answer, I get charged anyway.
So you say it helps. So when you get those dopamine hits like that, it helps you to be more patient. Because I'm just thinking to myself, you know, like if I were to start doing that right when I wake up, I wonder if that's going to make, if I just make a commitment, a 30-day commitment to that, and try to notice the difference. Am I handling my tasks during the day, focusing better?
Here's the thing. You can try to make the commitment. What I would make a commitment to, you can't just do one thing. Make a commitment to that. But to do that, you have to make a commitment to going to sleep earlier. Right? You can't just have your normal schedule and expect that you're just going to randomly wake up an hour earlier and do this exercise or whatever, right? So you have to commit to other things to get there. And that's how rituals come place. Resolutions fail. Rituals succeed. The ritual of going to bed early so you can get up to do those exercises is much better than just saying, I'm going to get up and do this exercise. Right? Yeah. So everything you do want to commit to has to have a routine, a ritual behind it. You know, I mean, you look at me and I'll tell you that I've done 2 Ironman and I'm training for my 3rd. And you look at me and you say, no, Peter, you're confused. You've sat on your fat ass watching the movie Iron Man while eating chicken wings. But I really have done them. But again, that goes back to what I was saying of not everyone is the same as you would expect them to be.
Wait, can I ask you a question? That's a little off topic. Just because I didn't go, but I almost went, but my mother talked me out of it, LaGuardia in the early 90s. I just want to know what you went for. I
was a vocal major.
Okay.
I have 20 years of classical music under my belt, the classical vocal training under my belt, which I rarely tell people. Okay. But I was a vocal major. I graduated with Marlon Wayans and Omar Epps. Yeah. Jennifer Aniston was a year before me. Adrian Brody was a year after me. And it was a badge of honor going to LaGuardia until Nicki Minaj announced that she graduated from there and fucked it up for all of us. So it was
yeah, I got in for vocal also, and I thought like, oh, you know, I'm all right, but there's no way. And so
you got in. You should have gone.
I've never heard you.
You know what?
I haven't heard you sing, Dad.
Went for art. You can see behind me. This is something she did after.
Yeah.
And the year I got in, I would have graduated in '88, and I guess that's
right when they moved to the new building. Yeah.
Yeah, they moved to the new building, and my mom was really.
You would have been in the middle of it, yeah, because I was the second class in there. I was class of '90.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so that's why I did that. That's really why I didn't go. But anyway, I would have known you. I would have thought, wow, he's a good singer, and I suck. And why am I here? I better.
But you also would have thought, wow,
time.
he's the biggest dork ever, because that's how I was channeling my ADHD at the time.
Right. Oh, I can imagine who you were. Were you a tenor? Are you a tenor?
Well, that's funny thing. So remember when I said I had a brain tumor? Prednisone stops puberty. I was a soprano and a bass for 2 goddamn years.
And a bass.
Wow.
My voice was changed. My voice changed for 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. What a fun life. I joked that I was God just kept wanting to kill me. He just kept missing, like nicking me, making this happen, that happen. You know?
I have a friend who used to sit. You remember the song? I get knocked down, but I get.
Yeah, of course.
She said that was her theme song. Like
Chumbawamba.
Yeah, there was so much going on, like one bad thing after another. Anyway. Okay, sorry, I totally like digressed us, but I was just curious.
God, you think you have ADHD or something?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have like multiple. Right, squirrel.
I have a question actually, because I'm sort of trying to build out in my mind how this works. So you've mentioned going to bed early or getting a good night's sleep and getting up in the morning and getting that workout in, getting the dopamine flowing. What other non-medical things can somebody be doing to manage ADHD?
Whatever gets you excited, right? So runner's high is not just for runners. Runner's high comes with anything. I get runner's high on an airplane. I've written 3 of my 5 books on airplanes. With Zombie Loyalist, my 4th book, I had a year to write it. I did all the research the first month and then completely forgot about it for 11 months. And then with 2 weeks left, my publisher, HarperCollins, or I don't remember who the publisher was. She says, you have, I don't remember. She goes, you have 2 weeks. Are you almost done? I'm like, oh yeah, piece of cake. I hadn't written anything. I booked a flight the next day to Tokyo. And I brought my laptop and a sweatshirt and my headphones and my power cord. And I wrote chapters 1 through 5 on the flight out. I landed, went to the lounge, had a cup of coffee, took a shower, got back on the same plane, same seat. 2 hours later, wrote chapters 6 through 10, landed 34 hours later with a book. Right.
Wait,
and then
you
got
flew just to write the book, in other words?
Didn't even clear customs. Didn't even clear immigration.
I love it.
You knew that you would focus.
Because 14 hours in my zone of focus was all I needed each way. And then I got held up by Homeland Security for 5 hours because I never actually cleared immigration in Japan. Yeah, that was fun. But I wrote my book. And everyone says, oh my God, you're crazy. You spent $5,000 to go nowhere. I said, no, I spent $5,000 to have 36 hours uninterrupted to write a book.
Wow, that is really a crazy story. That's like,
that is.
But it worked.
That's like an amazing story.
I wonder if it's because your brain was operating on less oxygen at that altitude.
It was because my brain inherently understood that there was nowhere else I could go. Right? What am I going to do? I'm not going to walk off the plane. I'm not going to watch a movie. Right. I didn't have it. It was United, so there probably was internet, but it sucked. So I mean, what else was I going to do? Right? And I'm very loyal to United. I'm a 300,000 mile a year flyer on United. I'm what's called global services with them. And the reason I love traveling as much as I do is the journey itself. I get more work done on planes than anywhere else in the world. That's why these 9 weeks have been exceptionally tough. That's
very interesting.
So Peter, I'm getting a question from someone who's watching and has come in through my Facebook page. So they're saying that they have somebody in their life who has ADHD, and they have an issue with impulsiveness and lashing out and not being able to control that. Do you have any tips on that for somebody struggling with that?
Breathing. When I talk to my ex or when there's potential for a disagreement, I've learned to say one sentence and then take a breath and then say another sentence and then take a breath. And that just extra second and a half allows me not to go, because what happens is we wind up going on these tirades. Again, we want to be heard, right? So forcing myself to take that breath does 2 things. It gets me a little high, which is nice, but it also it makes sure that I focus on saying what I want to say, not saying something out of anger. And that's huge. Mm-hmm. So try that. Also, squishy toys. Hold a silly putty or something in your hand as you're having the conversation or as you're doing whatever, and just keep flexing it.
Yeah. Like those things we get at conferences all the time, the little stress balls.
Yeah. Make sure you flip hands, though, or one hand's going to look freakishly larger than the other, but that works really well as well.
Okay.
That's interesting. And the point of all of this is that a distraction, or is that exercise.
It's something to focus on that reminds you, because the thing happens, it's like people say, oh, I can drink, but I never have a problem with the first drink. It's after the first drink, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think, okay, I'm only going to have one drink, and that goes out the window if you have more than one drink. It's the same thing. I'm going to go into this argument. I'm going to go into this discussion calm and rational. But then the second you get triggered, boom, I'm off to the races, right?
Yeah.
So this keeps you in your hand to remind you to stay focused.
So what about, actually, I love that you brought up drinking, because many people with ADHD that I've known as adults self-medicate with alcohol, and that obviously causes issues. How does alcohol affect ADHD?
Alcohol, the thing with ADHD is that we tend to be magnanimous creatures who want to be nice and want to help things already. Alcohol makes us do more of that, which you'd think wouldn't be a bad thing until you wind up buying the whole bar of drink. But the thing that I've learned is that I was never, I believe that I'm an alcoholic. The irony is that everyone I've ever told that I was an alcoholic was said, oh, don't be an idiot, you're not an alcoholic, right? They've never seen me. I've never come home wasted. I've never been passed out in the street. It's never affected my work, anything. But I can't have one drink. I don't want one drink. I want 6 drinks. Not because I want to get drunk, but because there are 6 drinks in front of me. This was full this is club soda, and it was full when we started this conference. Right? This is a liter, 2 liters. What, a liter? Yeah, there's a liter. I go through 10 of these a day. I drink tequila the same exact way as I drink seltzer. Right. Not because I'm trying to get drunk, but because it's in front of me.
It's there.
And so what I've learned is that, remember the wonderful movie War Games?
Yep.
Yeah.
The only winning move is not to play.
That's
I rarely drink anymore. If I do drink, it's after a huge project, whatever. It's with someone I love or trust. It is in a controlled environment with a specific amount of alcohol. And I have thought the moment forward where I've cleared the day, the next day or whatever. Because it's not like I'm going to go get drunk and do stupid shit. But if I drink, then I'm not going to wake up as early, which means I'm not going to exercise. Well,
it means you're not going to meet the guy on the treadmill at 5:30.
I've already shot the morning. Well, now I'm just hungry and I'm hungover. Fuck it, let's just order a pizza. Well, I ordered a pizza. I ruined the day. Let's just order something let's order Chinese for dessert. Now it's 4 weeks later. I'm 20 pounds heavier. For what? For what?
It's like you give a mouse a cookie.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I've read the book. Yes.
I'll show you.
Wonderfully well written. But no, it's so true. It's so true. Why start? Especially because I know how good I'm going to feel if I do work out and how shitty I'm going to feel if I don't. Right? I've never found a drink that makes me feel as good as I do when I see a new muscle sprouting somewhere, I guess. Because I've always had issues in my body. I could weigh 8 pounds. I don't want to weigh 4. Right? And training for this Ironman is helping tremendously. As a matter of fact, it just got pushed back 3 months, which is even better because now my nutritionist is like, great, 3 more months to drop the weight and then you start heavy training again. But it's just that, again, you play that tape forward, and playing the tape forward works phenomenally for ADHD in every single capacity. Do I want to do this? Right? So again, another one of my rules. I give a lot of keynotes in Vegas because that's where the conferences are or were. And my rule is this: if you want me to keynote a conference in Vegas, it's going to be a lunchtime conference. Why? Because, or it's going to be, it could be a morning conference, but I'm not spending the night. So if you want me to keynote a morning conference, you're going to fly me to LA the night before, pay for a hotel room, and then fly me on a 6 a.m. flight from LA to Vegas. I'll do the 9 a.m. keynote, I'll be back on a 4 p.m. flight home. Am I going to go out and blow my kids' college fund in Vegas? No. But why present myself with the opportunity?
You know, it's funny, before when Susan asked you, what are the things can you do other than breathe and exercise? And, you know, somebody said anything else that occupies you. And what immediately came to mind is like, no, that means like women and drinking, like all these stimulating things. So I'm a big supporter of the skydiving. I think that's like, you know, very good choice for you, given the.
I can jump. I can do 4 or 5 jumps a day, and I will come home, and that dopamine is in me for the next 24 hours at minimum. And even my daughter has said to me when she knows when I've gone on the bike in the morning versus when I haven't. She knows. She sees it. Daddy, did you work out this morning? No, I know. You don't seem happy. Kid's 7. She's been saying that since I was 5. Since she was 5.
Well, I think it's really significant, right? I mean, that and what you said about having you didn't call it habits, but the routine or the, having, this is what works for me. This is what I'm going to stick to. And, I'm not it's the playing it forward, right? I stay up late tonight because I want to finish this Netflix binge.
Jessica, can you get the door? It's mommy. Jessica, get the door. It's mommy. Speaking of which, her mom has come to pick her up. Sorry about that. I knew that was going to happen.
That's nice.
No. And my dogs have been wanting to come in and out of the room, so I keep rolling over to open the door.
Tell mommy I'll be done in 2 minutes, okay? But yeah, that's where we are. And again, it works. It's a situation that works the way it works, and it's fine. But it's one of those things that, everything I've done in my life, I've learned to improve on, and I keep improving on it, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's and you're obviously a single dad, and I'm thinking of the parents out there who may have a child who is ADHD, and you're dealing with the stresses of being a single parent. And any last triggers that you may want to be more sensitive to a child with ADHD, so they don't shut down on you?
A lot of times before I talk to them, I find, speaking of child, before I talk to them, I talk to her. Sometimes
I can't see. Peter's totally frozen on my screen.
Oh, no, I can you answer the door.
I can't open it.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right.
Open the door.
Reach out to me, peter@shankman.com. I will gladly answer any questions I can.
Thank you very much for
Okay,
coming on, Peter.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. There we go.
That's such a great conversation to have, because this is such, I think it's, God, I can sit here and count so many people that I know that are dealing with issues around ADHD right now and have been for years. I mean, in my family, we have people who are just struggling to know how to manage it. I love his aspect of it where it's not treated as like this disease. It's treated as, actually he called it the superpower, right, Michael?
Yeah.
That's a thing. Like, we call it the superpower. There's actually, gosh, I can't think of it. That series of books, Percy Jackson. Do you know about that Percy Jackson series?
I don't think so.
It's for 10-year-olds, a little older maybe. And it's the kids in it are superheroes, and their superpower is ADHD. But of course, it's like extra superpower. And my kids loved those books when they were kids, because it's just I actually do think that it is a superpower if it's managed well and not labeled negatively, and not just. Michael and I've talked about this before, not just say, oh, there's, somebody's lazy or misbehaving, sometimes there's an issue. And if we can address the issue, then that person can accomplish and do so much more, as evidenced by Peter, who's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's
some
really
of the high achieving people have ADHD.
He's just one of these get shit doners, he does it. But
well, we didn't get a chance to thank him and have a chat about Harrow, but just creating that, think about, I know it's made a huge difference in my career, in my life.
Right.
So
exactly.
He's accomplished more in a short period of time than the rest of us, the rest of many people that I know with his superpower.
3 companies and 3 exits within 18 years. That's just
amazing,
phenomenal, And so, I think it's a matter of perspective. And so people who do have children with ADHD, I think it's important to give allowances for that, because it can get frustrating when they get off task and they don't get things done the way, in a timely fashion when you want it done. But understand that they have an ability, and if properly nurtured and understood, they can be incredibly effective and successful in life.
Absolutely, unbelievably successful. I got all my money on my kids who are ADHD, because it's just there is a lot of extra brain power and a lot of creative ways of thinking. I mean, we all bring different things to the table. Those of us who do not have ADHD, or who it's a continuum. And if you don't have ADHD, well, you can bring certain kinds of organization and ability to execute things in a really streamlined, coherent way. And people with ADHD, and there's long lists of incredible CEOs and people who are just so high achieving. you have ADHD and you harness your superpowers well, there's no limiting what you can achieve. Some of the most success, and I'm not advocating people to like drop out of school or anything like that, but some of the most successful people, either didn't go to college, went to a mediocre college, doesn't matter. It's like they set their mind to things, and they've got that laser vision and that speed racer brain, and they can do anything. So, but like for an audience of parents who are maybe listening to this, who are Fayr subscribers, if you have a co-parent who has ADHD, that can make things difficult for you. And I think like one of the best things that you can do is to try to tap into, I know this is like a bad word, but like your compassion for their disability, even if they don't acknowledge it, even if they won't, notice that they have it, you have the emotional distance from them, and then you try to like navigate around it. There's a book called like Living with ADHD. Can't think of it, but it's just, if you Google like, married with ADHD, there are lots of different things that you can do to manage your difficult relationship with your unmedicated, undiagnosed ex. And I think that's really important. I think using something like Fayr is a great way to keep you organized for communication, especially if you are dealing with someone who maybe they just struggle communicating, and they're not going to probably say to you like, I struggle communicating because I have ADHD. Like those words are never going to come out of their mouth, but you can know. I mean, it might come out of some of their mouths, but the large majority of people 40 and over are not going to say that. But you can know, hey, I heard about this parent communication application. Why don't we try it out? And, if you can afford it, like maybe you just pay for the both of you, because, it's going to make your life easier. It costs less than 1 hour with the lawyer to put the two of you on a free.
Way less.
Way less.
Way less.
For a whole year.
Yeah. Yes. So it's just, one step in front of the other. Everyone is just trying to muddle through, and, people do the best they can, even when it feels really like they're not. And when there's ADHD involved, as Peter just explained, the desire to be heard, the inability to see the other person, the desire to communicate is so much stronger than it is in just the neurotypical person. And just noting that may be at play is maybe helpful. There's my soapbox.
I just have to say, neurotypical. I love that term. I've never heard that one before. The neurotypical.
Yeah, he gave a lot of good one-liners. It was great.
Yeah, he definitely does. And actually, I'm looking at his article, the one that he mentioned in Medium. It's called 10 Ways to Be Happier When You Live/Love Someone Diagnosed with ADHD. And it's written from the perspective of someone who has ADHD married to someone who does not have ADHD and the challenges. So that's probably, I haven't read the article because we're talking, but it sounds like a fantastic article. And I love, having that conversation with him has been really eye-opening for me, because I have had the conversation about ADHD both in our family, in relationships, and then certainly in courtrooms or with clients. And it's always from a very negative perspective.
Totally.
Especially in court, it's treated, this child has something wrong with them, and the other parent isn't, helping them with their disability, use the word disability. I like the superpower name better.
It's crazy and you tell your kid, if your kid is diagnosed, that they have a superpower, and if you tell it to them positively, they will believe it. And you know why they'll believe it? Because it's true. It's actually true. It's just all about harnessing it and reframing the narrative. I'm like a one-trick pony with reframing the narrative, but like that's all I got.
It's your shtick, honey.
Yeah. I think from an organizational standpoint, I know for myself, when you've got a million other things going on, I can only imagine it's exacerbated amongst people with ADHD to stay organized in the co-parenting world, all the little things to keep track of, school activities, pickups, drop-offs, all of that kind of stuff, and to keep it documented, especially if there's a concern that there's a later on down the road motion that might come up. I mean, that's really the spirit behind why Fayr exists, is because it really allows you to log it, track it, and forget it. and it's going to be there available to you when you do need it later on. And so I could just see it. I think most people just have a hard time documenting and tracking things. And when we live in a world of everything coming through a text message, hey, be here at this time and this is the address, but that could be way up the thread. It could be an event that's going to be next month. And so trying to scroll back and find that information that they had sent you a month ago, very difficult. Whereas when you just plug it into Fayr, it's going to notify you that day, the day before, what's coming the following day, and even right down to the location. It's linked with iMaps and Google Maps. So yeah, everything becomes more seamless, and so I can imagine really helping those, especially who struggle with ADHD.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking to that point, what he said about taking a breath, as taking a breath when he was trying to communicate, using the app can actually be something along those lines. I think for co-parents, one or both who may have ADHD, it's almost like an enforced breath taking.
Totally. It's a pause.
Having to type it out. Yeah.
I talk so much about the pause.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like take that pause. That pause creates the space to not write the nastygram.
Yeah,
exactly.
The nastygram. I like that.
Well, we've seen many nastygrams in our day. Yeah. But even, especially for someone dealing with the ADHD, the compulsive lashing out, or just the pause in time that it has to come from the brain, go out through the thumbs or the finger and be typed, maybe that would be enough of a pause to help.
And actually, like to Peter's point, he was talking about, just wanting to be heard, and he'd get louder and louder and louder. And like that pause, may not come when you have an ADHD co-parent, but if you have the app there, I love that it's in a one contained place. And like the whole thing with texting, it used to be like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know about you guys, but like my texts, I didn't have so many texts. Like now it's like impossible to find your old text because the sheer volume. Like we used to be a society that talked on the phone, and now phone calls are reserved for a much shorter, much less frequent, and much fewer people. Generally, there's a much bigger texting culture, and I think we're going to see that more and more, even beyond texting. It's going to be just app-based communication. I can see it with the kids. They don't even text. That's like so old school.
Yeah, that's true.
I just have to tell you, I'm getting a message from the person one person who's coming in from my Facebook page. They want to try the app. So, Michael, how did they get the app?
Yeah, you can either go to our website and learn more at fayr.com. That's FAYR.com. Or you can go to BeFayr and just go ahead and download it there. But I just advise go to our website, fayr.com, and you can learn about it. And then there's plenty of links everywhere. It says, get the app. And we have why don't we use one of your referral codes so you can get a 20% discount. Susan 18 still works. And
Susan 18 or Gab.
I think it's
better 20. Better 20. So Susan 18 or Better 20, whichever one you want to give credit to, whichever one of these beautiful ladies you like the best.
Go for Gab.
The blondes always win. That's the way it goes.
There's not as much blonde as there used to be.
There's no blonde and never has been. So.
I want to give a shout out quickly to Jureen. Jureen, thank you very much for your sweet comments there. We really appreciate your support. Yeah, Jureen's a great one. She's over in North Carolina.
That really?
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. Lucky her.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting topic. I tell you, it's that the human brain.
Think it's a fascinating topic.
I think we're all certain. No one's normal, right? There's no such thing as normal. And
11 avatars.
11. I thought you said 12. Was it 11?
I thought it was 10.
I
know.
I made it up. I do actually think that there are avatars of people. I do. I really do. And then there's like extensions of them. Maybe that's my next book. So off topic.
No, that's exciting. And yeah, that's right. You've I really recommend everybody get Better Apart. Once you show her the book you got behind you there. You both have it. Look at you too.
I got it.
I've bought 3 of them, and I've given all 3 of them away to people, and everybody I've ever given it to says this is a really good book.
I know people say that to me like they're surprised. I'm like, why is this so surprising?
I know. Well, you know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But this is the one that I put behind me every time I'm on air. So
Susan's the best.
right
Susan's
there, people. Get better apart. Right below Buddha.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us for Co-Parenting Simplified, the Fayr way. We really appreciate your support, and I appreciate these two lovely ladies for joining me every week. And we'll be here next week.
Next week we're doing 4 o'clock, I think, right?
Yeah, I think we're doing 4 o'clock next week, 4 to 5.
Yes. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to have another special guest. So
Yeah,
watch our social to find out who that's going to be.
Yeah, why don't you give your handles real quickly? I mean, mine's just Be Fair on all my socials, Facebook, but why don't you go ahead, Susan and Gab?
Ours are similar. Mine's at Susan Guthrie ESQ.
And mine's at Gabrielle Hartley ESQ. We're very creative people.
All right, ladies. Well, very nice seeing both of you again. And
everybody have a great week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice to see ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.